This conference will now be recorded.
All right, you got a hammer. And I hereby throw that out. Oh, welcome everybody to 2024 and all the entertainment. Call the meeting to order. I guess the first question is, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Carol Lawton,
Oh, okay.
and I'm live here in Port Orford on 18th Street.
I can hardly hear.
Are these on?
Yes, they should be on. Go ahead and talk.
Okay. I live over on 18th Street
Oh,
in
okay.
Port Orford.
I'm Jim Howe, and acting chair, I guess, is what I am.
And you live up on Cedar Terrace.
This is also true.
And I'm Gary Burns, and I live in town here.
I'm Vic Miller.
And where do you reside? In town or?
Over by Garrison Lake.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. And I'm Mari Lacus and I live on Elk River.
Okay.
And Harry Bryant is missing. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure he knew about the meeting. And Kel resigned
Oh.
from the commission.
Who did?
Kel Duvall.
I suppose we should look for new members again.
What was our restrictions on where they can be from
So
Basically need them in the city limits.
within? So that leaves
this is
Clark
the layout. 4 members within the boundaries of the city limits, 1 member in the rural fire district, 1 in the urban growth boundary, and it says in the ordinance in Curry County, but it's the Port District. So we tried to get it so that there were 3 people outside that are still part of the community and would be involved in an emergency. And 4 would be in the city. So there'd be 1 more from the city, from the outside the city. So there's as up to 7 members. Now, we ended up passing the ordinance to create the commission on the 19th, or on October 19th. And I have a copy of that, and I don't know if that would be, that's something that everybody should have. Nobody got it yet, right? So it did get approved, and so I'll make sure at the next meeting that everybody has a copy. And I can go over parts of it that pertain to tonight, and then the rest of it's just kind of information as to how the.
I have a question, I guess, and it's what Joseph is here. Response Commission, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
On the city website, it says emergency.
That's what?
Emergency preparedness.
Okay.
I don't know if that was previous when this originally was.
There's been some confusion of.
I think preparedness is probably better.
Do you like
We
that?
don't respond. Fire department responds. Police respond. We don't respond. We get it ready.
We changed the name.
Preparedness. Do I have to turn it around? No, chair.
Do we need to take a vote for that, Gary, or?
Yeah, we have to get used to doing things official because we've just been kind of going by the seat of our pants.
We got 5, we got a quorum.
So there's a couple things that I'll need to ask the commission to make changes, and one of them is the Port District. As one of the members, because basically everybody in the community is in the Port District, either inside or outside the city, and the same with the urban growth boundary. Well, that's all outside, and then the rural fire district is outside the city limits. Is that the whole urban growth boundary, basically?
The fire district? No, oh no. The fire district goes up Elk River. It goes up Hubbard Creek. It goes up China Mountain a little ways.
So those aren't, that's outside the
That's-
urban growth boundary.
Oh, yeah, yeah, quite.
So do we all think that preparedness, I don't know why I thought response, that we're trying to create a plan that,
I think that might have been Jessica's doing.
what's that?
I think that might have been Jessica's doing,
Oh.
that response.
I came up with response,
Okay.
and I've had to keep bringing it into that. I'm good with whatever the group feels.
How many want preparedness and how many want response?
I'm for preparedness.
I would second that.
You like that better?
Absolutely. More consistent with what you normally see.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I go for that then too.
And unanimous for preparedness.
And
The
then,
website's now officially up to date.
wow, that's a little perk for Joseph. Okay. And so everybody has been approved by the council except for Dick. And Dick is going to go into City Hall and fill out a form. And if that's done before the next council meeting, then the council will approve it if we're all good with that. Dick has probably more experience in this than any of us coming from his background. So I was telling him how everything had come together. It was kind of everybody is somebody that I know that is on the council or commission. So from here out, we're going to need to advertise that we're looking for somebody. And we got you from me advertising it, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah.
How you.
That was Facebook.
But we'll need to advertise and then try to get some applications, and then we'll review the applications and we can ask for the people to come to our meeting if we want it. And then we approve it, then we give it to the council to approve, and then they're on the commission.
Gary, based on the type of appointments here, in which category are we lacking people? For instance,
The last one, whatever we've got
who represents city?
3 from the city. I'm from the rural fire district. You're from the urban growth boundary.
Yeah.
What was the last category? I can't remember.
Port Authority.
Port Authority? I don't know the boundaries of that.
Park District, I thought was one of them, right?
Park District? I didn't know that.
Port.
Port, okay.
Port District. So we need one more from the city and one more from.
We've got 4 actually for the city, if you count me. I'm in the city, Carol's in the city, Harry's in the city, and Dick's
Harry.
in the city.
I forgot Harry. Right.
And Mari's in the rural fire. And
So we need somebody from the Port District. Where does that encompass?
I'll have to find out because I'm not positive where that is.
But Mari's the only one from rural,
Right.
and we need 4 from rural?
City.
Right at
Four for city.
Thank
one
you.
urban growth guideline. one-
Got it.
So one from the port. John Huddle is the one that drew this up, and I had talked to him a little bit about it, but I think he kind of pulled it from the other commissions. And another thing I was curious about, if we wanted to have 4-year terms, or if it would be, if people would prefer 3-year. That's something I could go to the council. It's written down as 4.
That's good.
I'll keep it at 4.
I'm good with 4. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Well, given that people can resign whenever, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. It's part of, in a natural progression, if you had a group, then you'd have it staggered and not have everybody come up at all one time, so you have continuity. So I've got the 6 of ours names, and we're supposed to choose who's in what, we'll choose now the different seats. So,
Oh, I
Positions
see,
we're
for
in.
the time, for the term.
Mhm.
yeah,
No problem.
didn't explain that very well. So want me just to pick them?
Yeah.
So one will be for 1 year. Carol. This is for 2 years.
You have to renew in 1 year.
Harry's for 2 years. I'm for 3. And that's going to be the counselor's position. Dick is 4. And Jim is 1. Mari is 2. So, and I'll give that information.
And we're going to renew in the first month of the year. Is that going to be our,
Yeah.
let's not do anything too obscure. I'm already suffering from that.
If Carol would rather go with 4, I'll be happy to trade for the 1 if that works for you. Since you're well entrenched in the community.
Oh,
I don't mind. Did you not, are you hesitant to serve for 4?
Well, that was, yeah, you were the one, you had 1
I had 1.
and I'm 4, but I'll be happy to switch with you if that isn't a problem.
Well, at the end of the year, she can just re-up and then she,
Well, I understand that.
yeah.
And I would probably re-up too, but
I'm good, thank you.
is that a problem, Gary?
I think we can just keep it like this, if that's cool.
I'm sorry?
We'll just keep it like I called it.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I'll give that to Joseph tomorrow.
And what is the blank one would be 3?
Oh, right, that would be 3.
Okay. So just to be official, do we all approve of the positions?
It's good. Cool. And then we need to choose the chair, vice chair, and the secretary. And I nominate Jim for the chair position. Is anybody
all in favor?
all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Cool. And I've been the vice chair for whatever that means, but I'd go ahead and do that if everybody's in agreement. And then we need a secretary.
I am so bad at that job. You can't even believe it.
No, I can't. There's no way I can do that.
Okay.
So the secretary has to keep minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any means of compiling them since I don't have internet at my house.
I think we should assign it to someone who's not here. Isn't that the rule?
Let's recruit somebody in the Port District who would be really
Would be
good
the
at it.
secretary. Well, I'll go ahead and try to do it in the meantime. Because I don't think anybody else is going to.
I just
The
don't have any
secretary,
means
okay.
of, I mean, I would have to come down to the library, compile everything at the library.
Well, Joseph just said all we need to do is give him notes the next day and he'll just scan them and
Right. Okay, vice chair.
Was Gary,
Gary.
I believe.
I thought secretary was Gary.
Secretary is the person who does stuff and that nobody wants to do it.
Are you vice chair, Gary?
Hmm?
Are you secretary or vice chair?
both, I guess.
Okay.
Being
Do we need a treasurer?
No.
Good.
Yeah. So we can, I guess, talk about the function of the commission. Um,
Well, let's approve all the positions as stated.
Oh, we haven't done that. Okay. We're all good with the
Yeah.
positions?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Okay. All right, now we're down to discussions. Yay. What do we see as the overall function for the commission going forward?
I see one of our primary things as being, well, several prongs, but one of the ones we've been working on the most is having supplies on hand. And then I think another one that's pretty important is disseminating information to the community of what to do in different emergencies, because your response in a tsunami is going to be different from your response in a fire.
Yeah.
So just community communications or
Outreach.
community
Yes,
outreach?
yeah. And possibly assisting with coordination between the different entities, county, city, and fire and police departments.
And the state.
And, well, I mean, state and, I mean, if it's bad
Just
enough,
with
it'll
all
be feds,
agencies.
I mean.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think what you're touching on is a management structure to accomplish the requirements imposed on the city to handle the disaster and the county. The county's mandates are codified in state law to some degree.
Yeah.
Through the counties. I think even the MOU that's mentioned here is going to have to be in concert with what the county's obligations are and whatever they think. And we say yay or nay or whatever it is we want to do. But one of the things that we discussed briefly, Gary and I, was the ability for the city to function, assuming the worst case scenario, which is a tidal wave. Where does the city do business? What are the structural characteristics of this building, whether they can even operate in here, assuming it's not flooded?
No, this building is gone
Um,
in an earthquake.
Earthquakes, I mean, the ones that I've seen on earthquakes, block buildings
Yeah, no.
It went down.
Yeah,
And what you just touched on is the management through communications, because you can't count on cell phones and you can't count on all the other usual utilities. Is how do we interact, one with the county and then with the North County communities outside of the normal channels? I would not recommend using either the fire or the police channels for that. They're pretty active anyway. Normally they're not amicable to that kind of arrangement. So the city, or perhaps I should say the county, may already have a plan to interact. The other thing that's come up in every debrief that I've been involved in is initial assessment of what's going on between the people that control the event or will manage the event, which would include the council in this case, key people in the city and public works and water or whatever else is involved. Every debrief I've been to, that's the first complaint. And it's resolved, and then everybody forgets how they're supposed to do it or can do it. I'll guarantee you that's going to be the next problem in the next debrief on a major disaster down south, or even a minor disaster. So, and then of course, if the city can't operate here, where are they going to operate? And what resources do they need to operate up on the hill over here, Lighthouse or Lifeguard Hill, or up
Coast Guard Hill, yeah.
or Coast Guard Hill or wherever it is? I don't think the trailer is adequate for that. It's pretty small, I think, isn't it? I haven't seen it, the communications trailer, but a place where the city can function and manage. Probably in most cases, a good part of the North County, they're going to be the focal point, I would assume, the way it normally works out. So you would trust the outreach. I think we need an inreach, for the lack of a better term, where we look at the city's capability to function at all.
Well, it's not doing too good just on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, let alone on an emergency. Just to kind of clarify some comms, the fire departments for the county have several different channels that they can access. VTACs that they have 3 different kind of VTACs. Unfortunately, they function mostly through repeaters, which are located like out on the Cape and other places that are vulnerable. So these repeaters are not going to be, basically we're not going to have radio comms outside of the ham, which is where Harry comes in. He's a ham operator, and that is a highly developed thing within the ham radio group, that they have been developing their own system basically at this point, to be ready for that, because these are just a small number of individuals in this low population area. And that's what one of the things we've been kind of targeting, is getting our ham radio backup equipment at Coast Guard Hill. But as far as what structures will be standing, what structures we can use, it's probably going to be tents.
And it could be containers, like there's the container on.
Containers could also be used, yeah.
Well, you bring up a good point about repeaters, and I own a lot of repeaters and provide that repeater service and still do, although my son operates the business down in Southern California for municipalities and transit. And I've seen survivability in the county's equipment, and LA County's got megabucks and probably 60 plus sites throughout the county. And even in these last rainstorms, some of those actually went down. So they have to revert to their backup alternatives, and they have some pretty good backup. Ironically, since I've been there and seen it, we didn't go down. We designed them so they wouldn't go down, short of a bombing or something like that. I don't know what they have here. I know the county has a microwave system. It goes out to the Cape. To what degree that is dependable and earthquake resistant, I don't know. I haven't seen the sites. In LA County and Riverside County, we went to extremes to make those sites earthquake resistant. And then you have the power issue. I don't know what capability they have for immediate functionality. We need to know that. And we don't want to use that as a tool to function if it's not designed for resisting an earthquake or fire or anything else. And counties, LA lost sites for both reasons. There's just some other counties. Um, The ham resource is a good one for people that have a ham license. Um,
And that's what we're trying to establish is in, because this is a very low population area. And so we can't count on the bigger systems and the bigger backups. And so we're kind of dependent on individuals rather than departments.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a good system. And as I said, I am a ham. I've had my license since 1958, so
Uh-huh.
been around a while. I've built more repeaters than I can count, and I built them for the CERT program and donated all the engineering and time to do it and just charge them for what I paid for the equipment. And by the way, one of the efforts of the CERT chapters or teams or whatever they call them down south has been communications, realizing that there could become an essential part. And frankly, I don't think they use them to full effectiveness, but there's a much different situation here. And I think it would be good as an outreach to encourage people to have a ham license. You don't need the code thing anymore. If you're warm and breathe regularly, you can probably get a license. It's pretty easy now.
And Harry can actually do the testing.
Yeah, well, I can too, so that's not a big deal. But I think it's a resource that needs to be exploited among the community.
And it's the one that we can most effectively, I think, actually make happen, providing generators, backup generators for our repeaters. That's probably not within our scope of financial ability. Coming up with some kind of a generator that can keep a ham radio going. I mean, we've talked about this. It's like, we've even talked about the fact that it's like, well, we're going to need a manual typewriter. We're going to need, we're going to need stuff because we're not going to have anything. We're last on the list from talking to the county, when we have this lovely airport up here. I don't know if you've ever,
Yeah, I've been out there.
that is, a thing that the county and the state, actually it was the county, what was her name? Monica
Yeah.
Ward told us that the state has, determined that that's probably going to be the only, if there is a large earthquake and a tsunami, that's probably going to be the only surviving airstrip. It has
Unfortunately,
no
it's through rivers
beacon, it has no lights, it has no fuel access. But I was out there during the Anvil fire and they really utilize that. That big chunk of flat pavement with no trees around it is what they're looking for. But all the stuff that's going there, that is all the aid that is designed to go there during a big event, is going to go north.
Well, it unfortunately
According
is
to
two
the county.
bridges and two rivers away from us.
Yeah, I mean, it's close, but it's way far away. It's all going up to Coos Bay. It's all going north. So basically, here we are.
Well, I don't want to have you misunderstand. I'm not downplaying the ham involvement. It's what's here.
Yeah,
And there's a desire to be involved, but I don't want to overlook the capability and the understanding with the county. How does the city council managing an event here interact with the county for either acquisition of resources or declarations or whatever it is that happens? I would see the ham environment being an alternative to that in the worst case, but there needs to be a basic way for the counties and the cities within the county primarily to communicate with the focal point to the state. And that's the way it's called for in the law.
I would have no idea how that would work.
Yeah, well, a declaration, if there was a declaration of a disaster, it would filter through the county, up through the state, and then to the
Right.
feds for FEMA and all that.
But as far as communications, I have no idea how we would establish communications outside of ham operators if everything is, if the roads are out and all the internet is out and all the phone lines are out, all the electricity is out. I
That's
have
been
no
my
idea
goal.
how we would
That's-
contact the state.
That was my career role, was involved in that very thing.
Mhm.
And also involvement with the ham community.
Mhm.
And primarily what the hams focused on in the South was health and welfare types of communications to get it off of the public safety commission systems that are very active in that kind of a situation. So I don't know the best way to interact with the county on that, but I think that's important up front to find out how do they figure on doing business. And maybe they have a plan, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Well, Monica did present us with a format on that, didn't she? Where it was like, we're supposed to like have established people that were going to be in these various roles, that were going to be the central thing. But then now she's been replaced. So I have no idea if that format is still in place, but that was what she was working on before she was removed from the position.
Well,
Gary,
that start
Can
as
I,
a concept is important, but then you have to, how do you make it work? And I can tell you from at least a couple of disasters in a really big city, and it happened to be LA, although I've been involved in about 3 counties. But anyway, there was no communications through telephones.
Mhm.
Even the main fire dispatch point for 4,000 square mile LA County, they went down to the point they parked a car. Unfortunately, they were on a hill. They parked a car outside. They're handing messages out the window to dispatch. But you can't even count on the public telephone system. And I know that we're just planning one training session in the EOC. And I said, why don't we consider what we lost the last time and do our planning around that? So we had no telephone communications. And it's okay, then we'll use that for our scenario for the disaster. Well, then they got started. Wait a minute, our whole disaster is premised on using telephones, but we don't have any. So we have to consider that. And we're especially vulnerable here. And it's ironic because I read quite a bit about the plan in the state. In some ways, the challenge here is far greater than what I had to absorb in a big county like LA County.
Oh, I concur.
Because we had infinite resources. We just needed a way to coordinate them. Here, the resources alone are very scarce. And I don't really know what resources are here on the front end to do a recovery. You know, what kind of heavy equipment does the state have to at least get a minimally passable road? Where are we on the priority list for checking bridge safety in an earthquake?
Way down there.
Pretty down.
We're at the bottom.
Which is, yeah, but we need to know that and then figure out how we're going to deal with that.
can I interject a minute here? And I know you've talked quite a bit. You've had meetings about this and have discussed some of these nuances to a plan. But Gary, when the council set this up as a commission, did they have the expectation that we would set up a mission statement and then a plan to begin to talk about these things? How are we just,
Yeah,
because
we're
it
just
seems
kinda-
like we're having a scattered conversation
Right.
here,
Mm.
all of which is important, of course. But I feel like we need to come together and get a bit organized here first on what needs to be done and how we're going to do that. So, and I wasn't at that council meeting when they set this up. What was
And
their
they're
intent?
really, there's just kind of the essence of how the commission works and really not any kind of, the creation there is created an emergency response commission for the city of Port Orford.
That was it.
That's the very question I asked when we first talked. I said, where has the council defined their expectations and their priorities? Because we would have to work within that framework. And I don't know what their expectation is coming out of this thing.
I think that it's just from me convincing them that we needed this to happen. And so that's as far as it's gone. Nobody has.
It's sort of a tail wagging the dog right now.
Yeah, the council's always had so much going on. It didn't think, oh, we need this because they've just, so I think we're going to need to come up with the mission and we can just present it to the council and have them agree. They might want it changed a little bit or.
If we look at the county's plan, they have a mission statement and goal, and they actually have a definition of the city of Port Orford and what mitigation actions from there and notes and descriptions on what we're going to do and how to do it. And maybe the first thing would be to look at what's already here to see if that makes sense to us and change it, adopt it, and start with that as the essence of what we're doing here. And then certainly to begin to add things we need to address, like communication, like where are we going to put people, housing, all of these things interface. So I see that as an expansion of the mission statement and the goals. And it would be something then that we could also give to the county as our direction. I'm not sure how this originally was adopted by the county.
Oh, you brought a county plan?
Yes, just the section, the first section with the goals
Oh,
and the mission
great.
and the Port Orford section. I have that.
Did I send you the draft plan that we'd been working on? I forget whether I did that.
You know, I went to the website and I saw the draft plan and it says do not use
Oh.
on it. And I
Oh, it hasn't
believe
been approved.
it hasn't been approved. So that's another thing maybe we should look at.
Oh, that might have been that thing that I found. Remember?
And I believe it was Jessica who put do not use all over it.
Oh, there's one that Jim did because it hadn't been approved. But
That's the only one I've seen.
there was that, I don't have my phone.
There was a previous one that.
There was one that I found on the website and it was this whole thing that somebody had come up with. We didn't even know when. And it was right on the website and
Yeah.
it was hidden right on the website.
Yeah, it was hidden.
Because they just didn't expect it to be there, I guess. But I remember we talked about it and looked at it. It was so long ago, I can't remember much about it.
There wasn't much to take out of it.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe we could find that and print it out and then look at this as well. And then see if we can't combine, refine this and use that as the beginning of where we are and where we want to be.
We're pretty much a lot further along. I'll have to look at that and.
But you didn't send anybody the plan?
I thought I did, but.
So Jim has come up with a plan. We've worked on something for a couple of years. And
Oh, okay.
And then the commission reviewed it in group.
It hasn't been
still
approved.
needs
It
more
still
work
needs work.
before it goes out to the community for opinion review.
Okay, so maybe we could put that on the agenda for next time and get the
Yep.
information, review it and,
I'll send it to you.
okay.
Yeah, why don't you send it to everybody on the commission? And then I think that would be something that would take up a whole meeting to actually go through that. And
Well, I think we can take that and look at it, agree with it, massage it or whatever we take, and then back to the council for a buy-in. They're on the same page. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels.
Yeah. The council has so many different things it works on. Emergency response has not been, emergencies go on every day.
We would expect they would agree with us, but it's a courtesy and a procedural thing that we should do.
Yep.
Make sure that they
I
know
agree.
what we're working on.
Then they know even if a resident asks them, they know what we're up to and we all are in agreement what we're up to. And
The last I talked to Pat about the plan, and this was when John was here. And John and Pat both wanted it to go out to the community for review before the council sees it.
To the
Oh,
community for review?
Yeah.
That's back,
Oh, dear.
tail wagging dog.
Well, that would be a workshop, wouldn't it?
yeah, we probably would post the, the plan and then have a workshop and invite anybody that wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Wordsmithing by community.
Oh, hey,
Input.
And
it's
everybody-
like AI. You have
Mari,
no idea what
you're
gonna
not
get.
talking into a mic,
Oh,
so you're not being,
all right.
so we want to make sure. You can just move it toward you so you don't even have to lean.
It gives the community a chance to have input, and that's important. It's important to them and to us to hear their input. We may or may not think that it should be incorporated into the plan, but that's part of what we're doing is this is for the community
And to involve the community,
and involves them, yes.
because we'd want, ultimately, everybody in the community would know we had a plan and that sort of what it is
Yeah.
and how they might fit into that. Because when the emergency happens, the more people that feel like they're part of a plan, the better the result, I'm sure. So I think it'd be good for us to have a little more thought about the mission and look at the plan that you've made and look at your mission statement and then we can go over that on the next meeting.
Yeah,
So
there's a few updates that I need to do on it. In particular, Mara, if we could get together and go over the fire departments, I feel there's nothing in there.
And as part of the mission statement?
No,
What?
as part of the plan,
Oh, uh-huh.
I could use some help on that, because I don't have the expertise.
All right. Well, I guess we could set something up, you and I.
Hmm?
I guess later we can set something up,
Yeah.
time when we can sit down and talk about what it is exactly you want to establish with them.
we probably wouldn't be able to count on anything coming from the station. It would depend on,
Depending on, I mean, we have several different types of emergencies that we need to consider. So, I mean, if we have a big earthquake, all of this is gone. We have backups at Cedar Terrace and we have backups at Elk River. You may or may not be able to get those things here. We are working on having another facility that would be stick-built and be more resilient. Just in passing, one of the reasons we can't reinforce this building is because it's in the tsunami zone, and so we can't get the money to do that.
right,
Langlois was able to, fix their building, but they are just outside the tsunami zone. So we have to basically have a new building. So basically everything here is gone. There's some supply, there's duplicate supplies, but of older generation at Cedar Terrace. And then there's some stuff out at Elk River. But that, we can discuss that. But then on your other emergency is fire, big fire blowing down on a fast rate into town. And that is something that the fire department obviously would be responding to.
I think what got me interested last year was when I was on the planning commission and went through the comprehensive plan, and there was nothing on planning for fire. And this is right after Maui.
Yeah.
And we are in a similar geographic area where we have the ocean on one side and we're surrounded by forests and things that burn. So we could be trapped just as they were in Maui. And to me,
Paradise, yeah.
or paradise, yes. So to me, the fact that that's not even discussed in the comprehensive plan is why I'm on this
Okay,
commission, is I think we need to address that.
mhm.
good.
So we have to have different policies for different scenarios. is my,
And that one in particular, I think we want to work toward having an actual community plan that we just keep posting in the newspaper and in Facebook and then notices. And I'm working on getting that bulletin board at Ray's, so I'm counting on being able to use that for the flyers.
Mhm.
And but we need to come up with that plan and have it kind of so that people know everybody's going to head to the beach or they're going to head somewhere, and how that's going to work. And the one I continually worry about that isn't a dramatic emergency, but if the power grid went out, we could lose the power grid for the whole West Coast, or we could lose the power grid for the whole country, or there's just all kinds of things that could happen where everything is all intact, but we don't have any electricity. So, everything's got to be battery, um, and we got to be thinking about the possibilities for that, because there would be no more produce, or nothing would be coming into town, and we'd have just what we had, and how to deal with that.
Well, I think you make a good point about fire, because there are actually some FEMA funds available for fire hazard mitigation. And the forest is dangerous. We had a similar situation over on the other side of the Cascades over near Klamath Falls with a fire. And we actually had funding to clear out the forest, clear out the understory. And the only problem was the holdup, because some archaeologist up in Salem had to come down and give his blessing to do it, even though we already knew where the archaeological sites were. Well, it turns out when the fire comes through, they don't need prior approval. It just burns everything.
Mhm.
And it did. So the dangerous forest isn't dangerous anymore. But even here in the city, I don't know if there's a mitigation plan. There's some federal funds available through FEMA to mitigate this forest so thick and dangerous, all the way up to the urban interface with the forest and the city, which could involve ODF or maybe the Forest Service. But it's really a bad situation,
I can,
unnecessarily so.
yeah, there is funds available at this time that I can tell you, the person who is really working on that, and particularly in the gorse and the invasives that burn so well, is Erin Minster. She is the Curry County Watershed, what's her, supervisor, and she's getting lots of grants and lots of money to do this. A big problem is cooperation with landowners. Nobody wants to see their trees cut down. And I mean, we deal with this with the fire department all the time, where we have to have a certain height clearance for our vehicles to get in there. And, you can put that stuff out there all the time and say, you need to clear your road 14 feet high and 10 feet wide. And you will still not get a lot of cooperation. First of all, because it has to be done all the time. Clearing brush here is not a one-time, on my property, I clear the north side and I go to the next year and clear the south side, and I look over at the north side and go, it's got to get done again. So it's like a constant thing because it grows back so fast. But we do have a very go-getter person in Erin Minster who's been really working on that, and I cannot recommend her highly enough to you for discussing this, because she shakes money out of every couch cushion there is. And the biggest problem is like another thing that is not just the gorse, but the pampas grass in town. And I see people planting it still, and we're trying to get rid of this stuff. So there's all these little nitpicky, details of it, but there is a major push to clear these areas. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with our power lines, the BPA and the Cooskary Electric power lines. That corridor from Sixes River to just about China Mountain is gorse, which is extremely flammable. It runs north and south on a major wind pattern, which could just fire right down there. And we have been, the fire board and the watershed council and several other entities have been working to make all of that more resilient. But it is pretty big task. We are working on it though. It
Well,
is.
even referencing that work, and I don't know what the scope of this lady's work is, whether it includes Curry County or.
It's all Curry County, yeah.
Perfect. I think that in part, we reference that, say, this is a consideration and this is being worked on by whoever it is. So that it's on the table at least. It's not being overlooked because it's a critical element here. Just like
Yeah.
the last fire, if that had kept blowing this way or the wind changed, we'd have been in trouble.
Oh, yeah. No, I was right there. Trust me.
I mean, I've been through a forest fire, lived there.
Oh, the big door, the door to the
broken.
outside. Yeah, it's broken.
And second thing was hunting for a number, somebody's vehicle out here, a white vehicle, lights flash, and the trunk was open and the rain's going in. So whoever has a white vehicle out here at the side,
I hate to say I have one.
I think someone accidentally touched their key fob.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank
No,
The
thank you
post
so
office
much.
thing is,
Yeah, the post office, they've got the people that are going to fix it. It's on the list, but yeah, thank you.
hopefully it'll be done before the wind changes direction. Which will be in another few months. Yeah, I wonder how we can do to keep this moving along,
Yes.
that we don't get so bogged down in these little details,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
we're never going to get through this otherwise.
Yeah, and I think that the agenda was ambitious,
Yeah.
so we'll just get as far as we can.
I like the idea of, looking at the county's mission and objective, and we do need to look at what they have, I think, at this time already, and then adapt it for ours. So I'm not sure, I'll get some info from you on where you found that, and.
Yes, maybe what I can do is email this link, because it would be a link. I just
Okay.
copied portions of the link. It's on the county emergency plan. So I can mail that link to everyone.
Okay.
But would you rather have a copy of this directly?
No, I can look at it. That's all right. As long as I know that it's coming, I'll go look at it. But, yeah, you can get really hung up on the word stuff,
Well, so anxious to get things moving and get things going. And I know you've been working for quite some time on this.
Yeah.
That was you.
Well, and I just kind of don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time. It's like, with tsunami preparedness, the state for 2 or 3 years running ran the Great Oregon Tsunami Roadshow. And you go to the Oregon Tsunami website and there's everything there that you as an individual are supposed to do. And I can probably name all 10 people in town who have done it. And the rest of them haven't. So one thing is, getting people, I mean, that could be another one of our, things is communications with the community. We talked about this over the past year of having mailers going out how to be ready. Like, just as an example, with the fire department, now is when you need to cut brush. Not in July and August, now, so that it's gone by July and August. And so that's a thing we put on the website. So we need to put these little bullets out there, these little bullet points to people, do this, get this ready now, and what I see is kind of our objective there as one objective would be developing, which we had a plan. We had 5 different things we were going to send out to people that were going to be short and sweet. I think Clark actually made one up for us of, one a month that people would receive and go, oh, I need to have this ready. And, our thing is, to have the overall plan of how we're going to do it, and the rest is getting it out to the community. That's the community communications I'm talking about.
Ongoing.
Yeah, and then the preparedness is like me talking to Jim about what Dave Duncan, the fire chief's plan is for a major fire. And I have talked to Dave a few times about that. And it changes. Good. Yeah. But to me, that is kind of what we need to think about. Like, what are our objectives? And to me, the objectives are have supplies in place, our plan for supplies, and communications with the county, the state, of what it is we're supposed to do, what our protocols are with all those different entities, and communication with the community on a small scale, regular basis. If you hit them with this, they'll get none of it. You hit them with a flyer, they might get some food preparedness ready. They might get a go bag.
On the existing plan that you've got so far, does it list objectives in that?
I don't think so.
To be honest, it's been several months since I've read it, so I can't answer your question.
Well, then that might be something to come back with at our next meeting,
Yeah.
is for each of us to come back with some idea of what we feel the objectives should be. Because I know you have good ideas. I think we all have some ideas we can contribute, and then
We had created a list of kind of a campaign, at least to start, and we need to dig that up and.
I think I've still got it.
It's time to
floating around
review
here
it.
somewhere. Yeah.
So I understand you're going to send out the county plan.
A link.
I am. I'll send a link to the county plan, and then you can look through it to find the information. I'll give you some. For instance, this is the mission and goals, which is on page 133, and I'll reference it for you, so it's hopefully a little easier to find because it's pretty extensive.
Then our role is to see how we fit into that plan and interact effectively with the county.
Yes, and they do have a section where it does refer to Port Orford. So we'll want to look at that and decide if we want to update it or how
If we do it,
if it's
yeah.
adequate.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Gary, have you heard anything from Alicia on the medical supplies that she had?
Oh, actually, no. I was going to call her and I need to.
Looks
Who-
like I'm gonna owe her a phone call after this.
Who is the county emergency person now?
Ashley Thean.
Ashley. Yeah. And she was the emergency person during the fire, during the Anvil fire?
No, Monica was.
Yeah, Monica left after the fire.
How do you spell her
I thought we
name,
had-
Gary?
Someone.
Thien. Ashley Thien.
I heard back from the state ODOT and the information on the cost and signs,
Yeah, I read that.
it's no longer valid.
Oh,
Price has gone up ridiculously since then.
really? Wow. Just on signage or also on the
Everything.
stuff, everything? Oh, wow. Well,
So I'm waiting back for response from him and we'll see how much it went up.
yeah.
We do need to like go around and decide where we need to sign so we know how many we ultimately want. And
Yeah, and it did seem like the signs were considerably cheaper. So,
Yeah, it was $100. I'm gonna guess probably 3 times the amount. So figure $300 per sign.
But was that including the post and
No,
that was just the sign itself?
$200 per post.
Yeah,
But that's just an off the cuff
so these
guess.
would be signs that would direct people, because you have leaving and entering signs on 101. And
Which
these
I think we have
these would
now.
be signs that would, if you go to places like, Coos Bay has a lot and Bandon has a lot, because they have a lot of tourists. And, it's signage that directs people from the areas of 101 to the high ground. So let's say, the nearest high ground according to that where they're going to be sent according to the maps, inundation maps, from Battle Rock parking lot is going to be straight up,
Jefferson.
Jefferson. And we intend to have a cache there, a container, that it will be above the high water, projected high water mark. So, but if you're a tourist and you're at Battle Rock, you don't know that. And so we want to have some kind of signage that was like, tsunami escape route, this way. And another one that is kind of tricky is, to my mind, is that it is counterintuitive if you're in the Hamlet area and south, is that your closest evacuation at that point, according to the maps, is Coast Guard Hill. And I think a lot of people are going to intuitively try to go east, which is not going to get you high enough, fast enough. The Togami website, I don't know that they've done Port Orford yet. They've done Reed's Port and stuff, but they actually have a really good thing that has a color coordination showing if you live in certain areas, how fast you have to get there.
Oh,
And
we
it's
do
like, at
have,
this point you have to run, at this point you can.
we have something that for
Oh,
that.
have they done that? I
Uh-huh.
haven't
Yeah.
been there since then. Yeah. This is the basic one, but you can see that they have all Garrison Lake going here. And, I do know some people who live on 12th Street and stuff who have practiced going to Coast Guard Hill. But I also know a lot of people in the hamlet that
No idea.
no idea. And I know people who own houses in the hamlet who live in Coos Bay. No idea. So, my, feeling on it was that we needed, a sign on 14th and Arizona and 12th and Arizona. So that people coming from the west going east on 12th or 14th, which are pretty major roads, would see that every day as they're taking their kid to school or whatever, and go, I go that way, and maybe check it out as part of the community. And the only other spot that I think we really need to worry about is, Battle Rock, where you'll have a lot of tourists who won't know where to go.
And then we'd have the RV parks and that on this end of town, which they would be needing to go up.
Yeah, but that's
into-
kind of intuitive, it's like, yeah, go inland.
Is there one for 18th Street? Because that goes right up
Yeah,
just to drop.
that is, and there's a sign actually on 101 right now that says, go this way. So, as I said, that's somewhat intuitive, but Hamlet is not intuitive and Battle Rock is people who don't, and I've noticed in Bandon that like Coquille Point has, signage in Bandon, because that's a big tourist area. The Old Town in Bandon has signage that sends them up. Is it
Are
Baltimore?
you thinking on the highway at Battle Rock or in the parking lot at Battle Rock?
I don't know. The one thing is if it's like in the parking lot and facing southwest, it's gonna just get toasted in about 2 years because of the wind direction and sun. Signs that face that way don't last.
Okay.
Definitely something that has to be
Well,
planned out.
one of the big things for us is any sign on 101, that's ODOT's
Right.
point, if we go even a foot off of 101, then we're responsible for
Right.
buying them and putting them up.
Mhm.
So we could probably ask them to have one there at Jefferson and 101.
Saying escape route, because they do have, or evacuation route, I think it's
Mhm.
evacuation route. They do have that. And I believe Togami will, let's see, you go to Togami and then they go to ODOT? Or is it the other way around? I can't remember now. I think Togami has to say, yeah, we'll put a sign there, and then they take it to ODOT. I think that's the flow of information.
Well, the ODOT person that I've been dealing with, he's the one that's responsible.
Uh-huh,
So we send him the list.
yeah. But if we just had some of those little round, they're not little, they're like that big.
Yeah.
Evacuation signs for Arizona, I think that would be a community benefit.
Because we should get as many signs as we can for free.
Before they go, before they
And,
get any more expensive.
Because we can't have too many signs, I don't think, for people just to be aware when they're in the community that they're new.
Well,
Or-
you don't want to over sign a route.
No, but I mean, we definitely probably want both ways on Jefferson Street and 101 would make sense. And maybe from 101 to Hensley, if there's already one for 18th Street on 101.
Yeah, at least I saw it once, I'll have to, I
And I
mean,
think there's that
signs
we're-
get knocked down all the time,
You're
so.
leaving and entering, I think we've got those already on both sides. Seems like I've seen that, but
Yeah.
Okay.
and then I'm going to keep at Ashley about the CERT training because just as soon as we can organize a CERT training, I think we should be trying to have one or two.
Why don't you go ahead and define that, what CERT training is for?
The Citizens Emergency Response Training.
Mhm.
Who does that?
I think it has to come through the county. So it's to Ashley. And I've talked to her a little bit about it and she said they were working on it. But just before COVID, we had like 80 people I had on the list to take the class. Not that everybody would have shown up, but there was interest. And I think we get interest. I even have more of a following on Facebook on the networks. And I think we could get at least that many. So the more people we had trained in that, I think it would be, because everybody's going to be everywhere and you never know where the leaders are going to be at any given time.
Yeah, maybe we could include a ham radio component in the CERT training.
Oh.
Because that's the first thing
Oh, yeah.
all of them ask for,
Yeah,
and they need it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that would be a really good idea.
And we have enough BECs to handle it.
And then I sent everybody the email that Dick had sent to me. And these are all really important aspects. I don't know if everybody saw that.
Mhm.
I did not.
This is a wish list. It's hard to take them all on at once.
So I think that's something that we could, if everybody could make themselves aware of all those different aspects, and then we can start kind of picking away at them, putting one at a time on an agenda possibly, and
Well, they might be covered. I would just learn from,
right,
about the.
reviewing the
effort up and included.
plan.
I think that's perfect, you know, right on that. Why reinvent the wheel?
Mhm.
The one thing that I would add to that would be volunteer coordination. Because when you have a disaster, you'll have volunteers from everywhere across the United States coming in to help. And you've got to be prepared for them coming into the area as well. And that coordination is essential to recovery. So I would add that to it. And is there also discussion about a staging area such that the Forestry Service has, when there's a fire, they have a staging area? Has that been discussed as to where the central staging area
We
is for
discussed
these
the
services?
elementary school. It depends on the nature of the emergency.
Mhm.
Um,
Buffalo Park would be
Another one.
another one.
But if it's a,
The school would be good because of all the rooms, and you could actually put people up and,
You have a kitchen there.
yeah.
would
Yeah,
that
and
be
electricity.
safe in a tsunami, the
No,
school?
it's in the
So if
inundation
there's a
zone.
tsunami, where would this station?
Um, Once the tsunami has passed, then it could be cleared and used.
Right.
Any structure, I would probably not recommend entering.
Although you have to keep in mind the school is masonry also, masonry block, concrete
Say
block.
goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, when there's a flood, and I guess I know this because I led the recovery effort in 1995 for the flood that occurred in Sonoma County on the Russian River.
Oh.
And what surprised me was these houses that were flooded, and we're talking about some of them were only just flooded maybe 3 or 4 feet, others flooded to the ceiling, totally unusable
Mhm.
for lengths of time, and that depends on how many volunteers or how long it takes you to clean it out. And it gets pretty complicated from there. So the assumption that after a tsunami we'll just clear a place out and make it available, that's an incredibly big task. And if you're going to be focusing all of your time and energy on just trying to clear out that, then you're not going to be focusing on the other immediate needs of the people in the community. So we might want to look at other possibilities as far as a tsunami.
Um,
Actually, Jim, you did address this before and you actually priced it out. We were looking at tents, wall tents, and for, even the concept of the way we arrange our containers or cash containers that we could then use tarps in between or something like that. You can do a lot with tarp and parachute line if you know what you're doing. It's if we were to have an event and you figure you have about 36 hours after your initial tsunami, possibly a little bit longer. Let's just project 60, and you have weather like we had the past couple of days, and everybody living under tarps, it's not going to be that great. But the tents were not cheap, and there's only so many tents we can buy. And you would probably have to think about tents for medical and for food prep. But everybody else is going to be blue tarping it, I think.
What about this station up on
Everybody wants everybody to be in the fire station. Ask Dave how he would like everybody to be there. I can tell you, we've had tsunami events before, and you get about 60 cars up there, and you're not gonna move a fire truck because it just gets jam packed. And I have really pushed to have an assembly area in a different area because people want to assemble at the fire station, and you cannot have your community assemble at your emergency services center. It doesn't work. Your emergency services can't function with a bunch of people milling around and parking their cars and, oh, I lost the keys, and, oh, my kid's running over there, and what about the dogs? And, you know,
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's places farther, and this can be discussed in another time, I'm sure, but farther north, up Highway 101, and seems like there's got to be
Problem
another place.
problem north is we run into the Elk River Bridge.
Yep.
It's gonna be gone.
Oh, that's
And
true.
even the bridge,
Harrison
just
Lake
right there at
Bridge.
Salty Dog, going over the wetlands.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
which you can go around on the loop road. But at any rate, what the state recommended during the Great Tsunami Roadshow was that people who live in these areas start getting a buddy system with people who live on Cedar Terrace. I mean, like one person, Gary Anderson, there's been several people actually who live in high areas who have big open fields who have said, we can set up stuff there. The problem is, Gary and Norma aren't going to live forever. And who's going to buy that then? And are they going to? So we have looked for public grounds. We have some city-owned properties, which we're trying to develop with this volunteer thing that we're going to do. They're not huge, but for short-term temporary things, they will work. And we are going to be very dependent on other citizens assisting. The other thing that nobody seems to really register is when we have a big earthquake that knocks down the buildings, the concrete block buildings. Have you been in a house in an earthquake?
Yes.
It's this deep in stuff. And it's usually still not, even if it's stick built, it's not stable. So you're not, like you said, you're not going to just be moving right in, which is why we thought about tents. It's like we would be able to, if we have these tents stashed in the caches, we can immediately set up some kind of structure for some kind of protection until that immediate, 48-hour emergency has passed. But we can either be setting them up in these people's open fields that we have contacted, Ken Stevens on Hensley Hill, the Andersons. There's a few other places. That's Cedar Terrace. I don't think, but
Pretty much all the city property that is owned that's outside the tsunami zone would have to be clear cut to have space, because right now it's just overgrown forest.
Mhm.
And a lot of the places have problems with road access. Cemetery Loop, there's a property there. Well, you got a 12-foot high bank coming off the road.
Yeah.
Somebody in a wheelchair, it's not going to crawl up that bank.
So we have cultivated working terms with some local people who do have properties that they're willing to utilize. But the other thing we need to keep in mind is not so much with fire, but with any of this, earthquake, tsunami, is, we have to think in geologic time. We could all be gone.
Yeah.
All the people who own those properties can be gone. We have to be thinking in terms of a system rather than individuals.
Thank you.
We need basically the same thing that a lifeboat is to a ship. It provides temporary shelter until you can get your act together.
And it's a tricky thing because there's just lots of restrictions
Yeah,
that we have just built into the community.
We're really penned in a lot of ways for this
Mm-hmm.
results of a tsunami, for fire.
Because we're going to lose the road. I mean, we're losing the road going
yeah,
south
every day.
right
And that was
now.
always, but I mean, I thought Monica did a really good job on the, paperwork aspect of things, but she did not have a good grip of um, the reality of the area when she said, well, we need roads east. And it was like, well, yay, let me take you on one. They don't hold up real well,
Mhm. Yeah, like going up China Mountain. I don't know that you'd be able to.
Well, just even trying to go from here to Powers, um, it's not for the uninitiated.
Mhm.
And you're going to need substantive vehicles. And, so I mean, these are the things that we have actually cultivated, like you were talking about what kind of emergency equipment would be available. We would be, probably looking at what Coos Curry Electric has sitting on their lot and what a lot of the, just the local rock and construction guys have.
Joe Marsh and
Joe Marsh, Wayne Moore, it's going to be kind of an inside job. And it's going to be how much of that stuff survives any kind of an incident.
And then the troublesome thing is how much fuel did
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's limited fuel.
stored.
That is another thing we've thought about with the fire department is where can we put, and of course, that's another thing. Fuel has to be turned over. Fuel is vulnerable to being stolen. It just kind of goes on and on and on, how much money do you have? So, and where do you keep it so that it's safe and being turned over? But in the meantime, I'll have to go with, with what Clark said. If we get a little done, it's better than having nothing done. If we just get, some facilities to provide shelter in some of these caches so that if we needed it, we at least have some kind of cover and protection for people out of the rain, even if we have to rig it. And I think there's, still enough people in this area who are outdoorsy enough that they can figure that kind of stuff out a lot of it's going to be seat of the pants. It is in an emergency. Haven't you seen a lot of times where it's just like, well, what do we got? And we're just trying to get as much of we can so that we can go, what do we got? Well, we got some tools. So were you able to replace much of the stuff that was stolen out of that one container? You said you had a
that
stove
was from the school, and
oh, it was for the school.
and um, and that really the priority for that container is the school, but all the students are part of the community, and it wouldn't be just for the school.
Right.
Make sure that the kids were totally covered, and and I'm wondering about food, like the Common Good has food and the Rays has food, whether there would be something that we could set up ahead of time to have an agreement that the community coordination would come in and kind of commandeer, make the food a community resource, whether that's possible even. Because there's a lot of food in there. Would just
And are
depend.
you talking about preserving its integrity as far as turning it over on a regular
It would
basis?
just be a matter of salvaging. Like if a tsunami did come in, there would still be food that could be used, canned
Right.
goods, and
Uh-huh.
you'd have to sort through all of the debris, and it could be like all over the place. But
Well, if it's in a container, it would probably still be in the container, and the
right,
container
but
is
I'm
above
thinking in the Ray's Market.
Oh, raised market. No, that's going to be the steep.
But it's still, if that's the only food we have,
Yeah.
it, it seems like it might be good to make some kind of an agreement that how is that going to be dealt with? Is Ray's going to be able to secure it? No.
No, that would
Part of the
probably be it.
plan was that, we were going to come
I think
in.
this is where, on Dick's thing, law enforcement. And we can't count on there being any law enforcement. Those guys might be killed in it. They might be in this building. Where, what do we have? How many officers do we have right now? Chief and
For.
four,
Mhm.
And
a couple of them live out of town.
yeah, so I mean, it's going to be a thing of, I think, establishing stuff as it occurs and with who is here. Excellent article on that after 9/11, because there's people out there digging in the rubble right away with their hands. And the guy who actually pulled it together was some low-level, uh, person who managed different building things for the city. And he happened to know, the major construction companies that had big equipment. And he quickly cut that thing into quadrants and said, Giovanni, you're taking care of this one. O'Neill, you're taking care of this one.
Mm.
And he just organized the big equipment. And he did it out of the elementary school. And, it was, nobody said, okay, well, we're going to put Bob in charge. It was just like, this guy had the knowledge. And, so we may end up with Wayne Moore sitting there going, okay, you two guys are going to go down there and guard Rays.
Mhm.
It's, that's the thing with an emergency.
Well, and that's where I think of the CERT training.
Right.
If you had if we had 100 people in the whole community that were CERT trained, they would be scattered out and you'd
Right.
have somebody that had
Yeah,
some
the cert
semblance
training
of
would be the,
able to coordinate.
Another thing.
We should
that-
probably wrap this up.
Yeah. But last comment on this is a lot of times you need some sort of temporary banking system, even IOU scripts, that somebody holding them
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
a general thing. Because people aren't going to have cash.
The roadshow says you're supposed to start putting money into your go bag every time you open it.
Oh,
And you think of it as a savings account.
well, that's a good idea.
How often do you rate this go bag for?
I've been short on cash, and when I take a 20 out, I put 40 back.
Well, it would be interesting to see what Rogue Credit Union can contribute to that as far as how they could be helpful in that regard.
I've talked to him a little bit about it, but not in depth.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Where do
Because
people get
people
money?
will have money in their banks, but it won't be
Mhm.
accessible.
The good news is Rogue is backed up to Medford,
Mhm.
so you don't have to worry about this branch disappearing and your money going with it.
In a lot of ways, just to sum up, we're in a better position here because everybody kind of knows each other, and you know who you can trust and who you can't, and you know who you need to call, and who, a lot of us know who we're the, and when you discuss food, I know we've discussed it before, but and it is limited, but we also have access to places that produce food here. So we are in a better situation than a city where you would have a much larger population and not much access to food.
Because we do have all the cows and the sheep and fish.
Valley flora and
Or
Anyway, we've covered a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was nice to meet you. Yeah. I'm really enthusiastic about this idea of getting more ham operators. That would be a great thing. Do you know Clark? How do you say his last name?
Kosrek.
Kosarek? I think he's a
Kosarek.
ham too, and he's a pretty young guy.
Yeah, he just started, yeah.
Yeah.
I went over to their last meeting and met probably half a dozen or a dozen of them. Harry for one and
Gordon.
Gordon.
Bill, isn't Bill from Langlois? Can't think of his last name now. He used to have red hair, but now it's gray.
Anyway, if no one has objection, I would like to close the meeting.
And so we all know what we're going to be working on for the next meeting, the mission statement and the plan.
We need to coordinate
Yeah.
on talking to Ashley.
I would.
Excellent.
A half dozen questions for her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll try to just set that up as a meeting with, when she comes to look at the container. She was going to come and check it out first.
No, I sent her an email, told her how much space there was in it.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be good for her just to see it so that, and then she knows what's in, what she's got down there, whether it fit or not. And then for us to be able to kind of tell how much more room there would be for us to be able to use.
Yeah, that was one question I had for you.
I want to see if I can talk about it.
If she's got a bunch of supplies, I'm willing to take the truck down there, but I'd like to get a donation for gas.
I'm hoping that she just would do it with some,
Huh?
I'm hoping she'd use some county equipment.
So am I, but I know my truck is handy. So
Same thing.
everything's closed.
Yeah. Jim, I wanted to just